Hello, hello, and welcome back to No One Is Coming. The answer is you. And before we dive into today's episode, I want to ask you, what do these names have in common? Tom Hanks, Michelle Obama, Meryl Streep, Emma Watson, Lady Gaga, David Bowie, all these names and many, many more. What do they have in common? They all suffer from imposter syndrome. Yes, these celebrities and many more are terrified that one day they're either going to get their prizes taken away from them, or the fake police, the imposter police, is going to come knocking on their door and saying, hey, we want our money back. So we're going to talk today about public speaking, imposter syndrome, and all the tools to get a brilliant performance out of you. So with that being said, let's dive in. In a world where we often find ourselves waiting for someone to come and save us, it's time to embrace one powerful truth. I hate to tell you this, but no one is coming. The answer is you. Welcome to the podcast that empowers you to take charge of your life and unleash your true potential. I'm your host, Ofri Fuchs, and I'm thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with you. So, if you're ready to embark on a journey full of self-discovery, growth, and actually take responsibility for your life, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you're here. Now let's rock and roll. So hello, welcome back to No One Is Coming. The answer is you. I'm Ofri Fuchs. I'm your host, and I am a public speaking and powerful presence coach, which means I help people perform their best version of themselves on stage, whether it's with presentations, job interviews, on camera, whatever it need be. And I find the more and more I meet with people, we all know this, I believe, but I'm realizing how much people dread public appearances and public performances and public speaking specifically. And it is known that people fear public speaking worse than death. So it's pretty far up there, that fear among the top two. I think moving, and then also, of course, death, and there's public speaking somewhere in between. So, and for me, obviously coming from an acting background, that fear is not as present, although I will explain later on how I found it to be very much present. And the difference between appearing as an actress or an actor versus appearing as yourself on stage is dramatic. There's a huge difference. So that could be dreading, and I get that. I really, really do. So today I want to address a few things for those of you out there that are needing to have like a presentation or a big job interview coming up, or you just want to master public speaking, even in just a boardroom or any type of workspace environment, whether it could be that you're a healer or a coach, or you have some kind of online class that you need to be presenting on camera, and all of a sudden it feels a little intimidating and daunting. So we'll address all those types of environments. And as you can see, just based on my examples, public speaking is a tool that we need to be able to, conquer. And because we are living in a world that is relying on interactions. So whether it's a professional space or even a personal space, some people just by having the stage, being given the stage, why don't you address the family, right? Some people are dreading to raise a toast and even do that as their public appearances. And so there's many, many examples of why and how people dread just having the spotlight. So it's a very hot topic, especially in this day and age. Now, public appearances or public speaking, as I'll address it, some people will have chills down their spine, and some people will feel very excited about it and nervous. So one thing that I will say, and I think that's the bottom line when we understand what public speaking is, it's an opportunity to connect. It's not your opportunity to shine. It's not your opportunity to prove your worth. It's not an opportunity to show your value. It's just an opportunity to connect. So we have to take down, it's almost like bursting the bubble of that hot air balloon about me being given the stage, having the spotlight, being front and center, and feeling that burden, that heavy commitment that I have to perform right now and maybe represent the company or represent my family or represent whatever it is that I have to sell and make it perfect. It's not about perfection, it's about connection. So this is the foundation to remember. Now, public speaking, I don't know if you know this, is called glossophobia. It has an impact on, research has shown that it has an impact on any type of person. So you can be the lowest person in the company with regards to your title, or you can be the head of the company. You can be at a job interview, or you can be the interviewer. You can be a male or a female. It doesn't matter. It affects everyone in any circumstance, and the rate is over 70 or 75% of people that have experienced it. So now it's the imposter syndrome, as we used to call it, is now referred to as the imposter experience. So it's very, very common. So if you're struggling with it, know that you're not alone, and it's very common. And I don't know if that helps, but for some people, we're like, just to feel that I'm normal and that everybody experiences does have kind of a calming effect on them. So maybe for you too. So what are the two main factors that we feel that are tightening us up when we actually are experiencing the imposter syndrome or the public appearance fear? So the two main pillars, or the two main factors that are affecting us, is one is the fear of judgment, and two is, like I just mentioned, the imposter syndrome. So they look kind of similar, but they're not really. There's like nuances to each one. The fear of judgment is more in the line of, what if I fail? What if I look bad? What if I misrepresent? What if people hate me? So what if they're going to talk about me after, which they will, but what if they talk poorly about me behind my back, and it'll backfire. So all these, just if I'm standing in the very behind the scenes in the back, then I don't put myself out there, and nobody's going to look at me, nobody's going to talk about me. And the foundation is, what if they don't love me? And we need to understand that there's something very basic human in this experience of, what if I'm not being loved? And then you have to stop and ask yourself, do I really need this love? Is this love what I'm looking for? Or is this just a validation of my worth? So we sometimes miscommunicate to ourselves, and if the people are applauding what I do or how I perform, then that equals love. So we have to really see that with a very gentle and compassionate heart, and understand that this fear of, what if I mess up? It's not about like messing up. You can't mess up. The more human you are, the more vulnerable you are, the more people will connect. And again, it's not about perfection, it's about connection. So the more vulnerable you are, the more human you are, the more even terrified you are, people see that, their heart goes out to you. So the more natural, human, imperfect you are, the more you will be able to connect to. People will be able to connect to you. Now, the other pillar of this fear, of this tightening, is the imposter syndrome. And like I mentioned in the very beginning, so many people that are so successful in so many fields have that feeling that, oh my God, I'm going to get found out. I'm not good enough. What am I doing here? Jodie Foster, when she got the Oscar, said, you're wrong. Like, this shouldn't be me. Like, somebody made a mistake here. Like, she thought somebody made a mistake. Like, this can't be real. I don't belong in this arena of these highly successful people, of these top leading actors, of these top people in the industry. So it's very, very natural to feel like, oh my God, I'm so out of space, out of place. But maybe you're out of place. This feeling is because it's time for you to grow. You don't have to be the ultimate authoritative figure in your field. You don't have to be, again, perfect in order to share your voice, in order to share your experience, so that you take the space and the time. I'm like that. I'm very cautious of someone's time. I try to, even now, I'm trying to slow down the way I speak because I'm cautious of your time. So it's a form of, I don't want to intrude. So slowing down the way we talk, personally, is something that I do to remember, to remind myself of my value, of my worth, that I can take the space right here, right now. So this is just a reminder for you that everybody experiences it. And this is your time not only to shine, but to grow into, to step into bigger shoes, which you can just by practice, just by pushing yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone into these bigger shoes, which you will grow into just by the mere fact that you stepped into them. That's already growth. That's already leaving the imposter syndrome behind. The more you do it, the more you practice it, the more you'll look back and say, hey, I've actually arrived. I actually don't feel like an imposter anymore. So how do we do that? How do we move from the imposter syndrome, from that fear and anxiety of public speaking, whether, again, like you have a big presentation, whether you have a big job interview, whether you have a big boardroom, or sometimes it's even micromanagement where you all of a sudden you're part of a team and all of a sudden the boss comes up to you and say, hey, you know what? You just got a little bit of promotion and you'll be running the team. And all of a sudden instead of being part of the group and these are your peers, you're their leader now. And you need to handle that weekly meeting that you're having. You need to run it. So that little shift in your status can be terrifying. And I have clients who've been there and they're like, I can't speak from above. You don't need to speak from above. You need to connect. It doesn't matter what your status is in the company. So how do we do that? How do we step into these big shoes and grow up our feet in a way? So first things first, I want to talk about body language. Okay. And I'm thinking of maybe in my online course, I'll incorporate a lot more tools with regard to body language because of how easy it is to access. We don't need to convince ourselves. We don't need to brainwash ourselves into believing that we're something else. We just have to use our bodies for our benefit to help us. And we use power poses. I'm sure you've heard of them. And if you haven't, this is just an example of a few power poses that allow you to expand and take some more space. And then your body gets these signals where you feel more in control. Your stress levels go down. You feel that you can handle any situation, any question. So you can expand your body by, doing this, expanding your elbows and lifting your chest up, just like the animal kingdom. The bigger and broader your being is, the more you feel confident. You can expand your arms. You can do the Wonder Woman pose. You can lift your legs on a table. You can lean back. You can do anything and everything that expands your body and basically grounds you to feel more in control and open. And what to avoid is the exact opposite, which means don't close off your body, don't look down, don't slouch your shoulders, don't hunch over. Women do this. Try not to touch your face too much. All these things close you off. And the signals that they send to your mind is, I'm weak, I'm insecure, I'm fearful, I'm stressed, anxiety is coming up. So it's all about regulating our hormones and having the good hormones work for us and with us, and the bad hormones, which is the stress hormones, lower down, the cortisol lower down, and kind of be in control. Another thing that we like to use is the breath work. The breath work is amazing to regulate our nervous system and to do exactly that, to regulate our hormones and to help us. So using the breath, which is so easy, we all have it and we can access it. We don't need space, time, tools. And one of the tools that I really like to do is the square breath, which is taking the longest inhale possible through your nose, holding it at the top, taking the longest exhale out of your mouth and holding it with no air. So it kind of looks like this. You go in, you hold, and I'm not going to demonstrate this whole thing because I can hold my breath for a very long time. I used to be a swimmer. And then I exhale all the way out through my mouth. And again, I'm not going to demonstrate the whole length. I'm just going to shorten it, but it goes like this. And you can, if you take some voice, let the air rub on your vocal cords. That's really good. So it's called ujjayi breath. So it goes, and you let that out. And once you're done, you hold with no breath. So you're going to feel my voice choking a little bit. So it's slightly going choking. And then I go in, and then you release. Now, if you practice this type of breath 3-4 times before a major public speaking event or even before a big boardroom meeting, you'll feel all of a sudden like you're floating and your body immediately relaxes. So it's a great tool to use anywhere, anytime, and as much as possible, honestly. So it's really using your diaphragm in a real good way that regulates our hormone, our nervous system. The third thing that I want to suggest to you is if you have any public speaking event or opportunity, I would call it, is to also use a story. So even, let's say it's Monday morning team meeting, just use a little story about something that happened to you on the weekend. That's a way of kind of breaking the ice, of getting the audience, your listeners engaged, and making it a little bit more personal. So that it automatically opens people's hearts and they're rooting for you. They're on your corner. And this leads me directly to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is engaging with your audience. Now, I just had a client that I was working with, and when we started working together, she would look to the ceiling and the sky and the walls, and I was like, where are you looking? And she's like, she was trying to avoid in any way, shape, or form eye contact with the audience. And I have to remind you guys, your audience is rooting for you. It really is. Do you remember, like in reality shows where Simon Cowell or some other judge would speak to the other judges and they would say, I really hope she does well. I really hope they do good. We are rooting for whoever's on stage. We empathize with them. We're dreading this situation when someone is nervous just as much as they are. I want you. I'm on your corner. So the more you engage with me, the more my heart is going to open for you. I will be more approachable. My listening is going to be better. And so you can either engage with a direct question, not in a conversation, just a question. Hey, has anyone ever blah, blah, blah? Raise your hands if you this, that, or the other. Have you ever experienced ... So there's a lot of ways to engage, or when was the last time you did? So that gets the audience thinking, and once they're thinking about something you presented to them, or what do you see here in this picture? So any way that you can engage with the audience will automatically make them feel more alive, more vibrant, more engaged in your conversation, and that will raise the level of confidence that you'll feel because you will be the leader of this group, and all of a sudden this energy of the room will coexist. It'll be like one form of energy surrounding you. It's not going to be all spread out energy with different people. You got them all together. So that's a really, really good feeling once you got that going, and use ways to engage with the audience in order to make that happen. So another thing that I want to tell you with a client's example is the way you use your props or your tools or your presentation. So for instance, I had this client where she brought in her presentation the very first time, and there were so many slides and so many clicks on each slide because there's animation and things coming in and out. And she became basically, and this is what I told her, a slave to the presentation. Instead of working with herself, connecting with her audience, connecting to her theme or what she wants to deliver, she was working for the presentation and making sure her speaking, her words, her sentences, her phrases are in line with the timing of the presentation. And there, of course, there's a limit of time, like 20 minutes to the presentation. So it also had to work and in line with the times that she already had in this convention. So she was stressed. She added stress to her nervousness by making the presentation difficult for her. And the first thing we did on the very first day that we met was clean it out. So whatever it is that you're using, if you're using a prop and you're showing it to the audience, make it easy, simple to pull out, to show, to demonstrate. If you're using a chair, make it accessible for you. Don't have it in the way. If you're using a stand, if you're using a clicker with a presentation, make it work for you. A presentation, a public speaking is like music. There's a beginning, a middle, and a big ending. This is how we flow together. Don't make it choppy, okay? This really affects people, especially like me, when I'm really like auditory. Like if I feel something that's out of sync, that can throw me off. I'm losing you. So use as many, make it simple, use as little pieces and props as possible, and make it about the connection and not about the gimmicks around you. Okay, that's super, super important. So to close this off, public speaking, as much as it seems like it's a thing that people do out there on stage, it's a day-to-day thing. You meet people on the elevator, in the backyard, in the supermarket. You are working, so there's a community. Sometimes there's a public speaking event where you have to raise a toast to someone. There's lots of opportunities, whether it's business or personal, where you can be a leader. And I call them opportunities because another thing is the mindset that you're walking into this experience with. If you're dreading it, or if you're saying, I'm excited about it, this will create how you be in that experience. And if you haven't practiced it, don't worry if you haven't practiced it. Don't worry about it. It's an experience, it's a skill that you can master. So go out there into the world and practice being the public speaker, aka the leader of whatever it is that you want to represent. Whether it's your family, whether it's your agenda, whether it's your business, whether it's your product, whether it's yourself. Because you have a voice and your voice needs to be heard. And you are a true leader of your life, of your family's life, of your community, of your business. So don't hide behind the scenes. Don't hide behind the wings. Come out there, front and center. Shine bright like a diamond because your voice matters. No one is coming. The answer is you, and you're the one that needs to step up front and center. So I hope this was valuable for you. Thank you for either tuning in or watching, and I'll see you or be listened to next time.